Okay. Bit of ASMR, shaking my chakra, feeling harmony, balancing mist. We're going to do a few spritzes of those to welcome ourselves into episode 1, everybody. Oh my gosh, guys. Welcome to Growing and Glowing, your new favourite podcast with me, your host, Mrs. Ellie Swift. That's when I'm planning there should be a little jingle. I'm still yet to find the perfect song. Hopefully you might have just heard it. If so, what do you think? If we've just left it blank, I've still not found one and I'm open to recommendations. Hello to you, the wonderful person listening, and welcome to, for the very first time, the Growing and Glowing podcast. I am so grateful that you are here with me, guys. This podcast is our safe space to delve into all the topics of life learnings there may be, from self-love, spirituality, motherhood, grief, and oh my goodness, so much more, to provide you with a friend through the very up and down journey that is growing and glowing into the very best version of who you truly are. Guys, this is such a monumental moment for me, sitting here and starting to record this. Wow, I can't believe it. It feels so cool, like headphones on my head. I'm here with a mic. I've still got the camera going because she's still a YouTube girly at heart. You can take the girl out of YouTube, but you can't take the YouTube out of the girl. Do you know what I mean? Like, podcast is audio, right? But I'm like, I still should film it. And then if you guys want it on YouTube too, let me know. We can so do that. But this moment for me, sitting here and really starting to record Growing and Glowing for real, like we're actually here, is just a big moment, because I've been building this moment up in my mind to be like a big thing. I said to myself a long time ago, I've been wanting to do Growing and Glowing for just over a year now, and I said to myself all that time ago, I will start Growing and Glowing when I feel like I am ready to show up as and share with the world an incredibly raw, authentic, and vulnerable best version of me. And the thing is I don't think you ever really feel there. Like, you can feel good, but you don't ever hit a point where you're like, okay, I'm the best version of me. She's here. I mean, don't get me wrong, like sometimes I feel like that, like, I can't lie, you know, sitting, dunking a chocolate digestive into my cup of tea. I'm like, okay, we're watching Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, snuggled up, my comfort level is 100. I'm like, okay, maybe this is her, maybe she is here. But I'm talking about like just an everyday sense that you're like, okay, you know, sell by point, we've reached 12th of March 2052, like, best version of me is now here and that's it forever. It's a constant journey. It's a constant choice to show up as your higher self every single day. And I feel like with today's society, it's become really hard to just start something without having a lot of expectation for yourself on how that's gonna go. Like with Growing and Glowing, something I've really, really learned to do with an open heart is just to release any pressure and just jumping into it because it feels good. Like, what happened to that? What happened to just doing something because it feels good nowadays? When's the last time you did something for yourself that you're just like, you know what? I just do this because it feels great. It just feels great to me. You don't expect any reward from it. You don't expect XYZ. That is Growing and Glowing for me. Like, my intention with this podcast is not only to provide you with a space to feel loved, to feel seen, to feel heard, to feel inspired, to feel understood. I hope that for every single person listening to Growing and Glowing, and I want to say right now with an open heart, wherever you are, whoever you are, whatever stage at your journey you may be in right now, you are welcome here. You are safe here. If you're willing to keep an open mind and an open heart on how you can start showing up as the best version of yourself, there's going to be some really, really beautiful moments here for you on Growing and Glowing. And I really hope that this podcast serves you in some way. Another reason why I want to start Growing and Glowing is not only obviously to provide you guys with a friend, a safe space, you know, kind of coop up together on this little corner of the internet over here. Some of you guys might have been watching me on YouTube for however long and grown with me and gone through life with me, guys. I have actually been, we're going to get into formal introductions. If you're brand new here, I mean, everybody's new here to Growing and Glowing, of course, this is episode 1, but if you're new to me and to my energy, we're going to do formal introductions in a mo. But hello, so nice to meet you. I have been on YouTube online for, guys, you actually aren't going to believe this, when I did the math the other day. 8.5 years. What? 8.5 years? Guys, that's basically the same age as my nephew. My nephew is literally a human embodiment of my time online. But I feel like the growth that has happened for me and for the industry even within that time that I've been online has been like so fast, so quick. And the industry now is something that is actually really unrecognizable compared to when I first began. Like, I think back to when I uploaded my first ever YouTube video and it was like there was so little benchmarks, guys. Like, it really was a passion project for people. I originally started my YouTube channel to literally connect and to make friends because I was at a point in my life where I felt like I didn't have anybody. I'd been with my boyfriend, now husband and stunning baby daddy, father of my gorgeous kids, one that I'm about to bring into the world, but like I said, we'll get into that. You know, we're actually halfway through formal introductions anyway, aren't we? I do this all the time. This is going to be something that I feel like you guys are actually going to have to bear with. My middle name should literally be like Miss Tangent, because all I do is tell about 10 mini stories in each story, so apologies for that. But I literally just got with my boyfriend at the time. I think we'd maybe been together for been in each other's lives for 6 months, and I was at an incredibly transitional point in my life. I had just been kicked out / moved out of my family home to go to university, and it was in a brand new place. My mum had just been diagnosed with a brain tumour. I was feeling very distant, very disconnected from the world around me, and so I turned to the internet to really allow for those connections and friendships that I felt like I was craving and missing on the physical realm, I guess you could say. And, you know, since then it's turned into this incredible thing that I would never in a million years have expected it to be, but it's a very different industry now. And the society that we are today, with apps like TikTok and, you know, Instagram Reels and stuff like that, YouTube Shorts, our society now is so fast paced. We have such short attention spans. But let me tell you, I am a long content form girly. That is me. She is I am the friend that will sit down with you for literally 5 hours over a cup of tea and put the world to rights. And that's who I am in my soul. I don't know if I'm made out for all of these 15-second videos, guys. I can't do it. I tried to upload a reel of me and my toddler making a smoothie the other day, and oh my god, the stress I had over trying to fit it into a 90-second Instagram reel when I wanted it really to be 4 minutes. I'm just a long content gal over here. So I've been really, really craving recently, and when I say recently, I literally mean for about 2 years now, a platform to get into it, to share my journey across so many levels in, you know, such an intimate space. I feel like podcasts are really intimate spaces. I love feeling so connected to the person whose podcast I'm listening to. You know, we choose to listen to podcasts, or at least I do, in really intimate moments, when you're driving on your own. And that's a time where you can just escape into any world you choose to. And the fact that you are here right now, choosing to step into my world and listen to my thoughts, I'm so honoured to have you here. I really am. And I hope that we can grow a beautiful friendship through Growing and Glowing, if we haven't already through my YouTube videos. Yeah, this is just our new little space where we can get that little bit deeper, get that little bit more loving, get that little bit more accepting. You know, I really want this podcast to bring you so much love and so much light, and really leave you with every single episode, every time you come to chat with me, to leave you feeling more connected to your higher self. I mean, listen, this kind of thing, it's not for everybody, but that's okay. That's okay. It's for the people who are just ready to start showing up for themselves, you know? It's not a podcast for selling book releases or having doctors on to showcase knowledge about this or that, or even actually other guests. Like, don't get me wrong, I would love to have other guests, but this is just purely a total passion project for me to be able to connect with you on a deeper level. Some episodes might be long, some episodes might be, you know, just little quick self-love moments. Here's what I'm thinking today, 10 minutes. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, every episode you should probably prepare yourself, my love, to be here with me for like a good 2 hours, because I can chat and I go on tangents and I have a lot of thoughts. So I just feel like wherever you are, whatever you're doing, grab a drink, babe, grab a snack, and if we need to break it up into a few, you know, like 20-minute sections, then we might. But I'm here for you. I hope you know that. I'm sending you a giant hug today, and let's fully dive in to episode 1. Okay, so I want to start every episode with an affirmation of the day. I love affirmations. They make me feel that little bit more put together, that little bit more collected. If I have an intention for the day, I feel like I can go about my actions feeling more connected to who I truly am. You know, affirmations really don't have to be a big deal. You don't have to stand in the mirror and stare at yourself with this like wholehearted having a moment of unconditional love for yourself. Like, that is just, I feel like for the majority of that's kind of unrealistic. I just repeat them in my head as I'm cleaning my kitchen, or I just write it down on my phone for the day and I just repeat it back, take a deep breath, and then that's done, is my intention. And it's in my head then, in my subconscious for, you know, whenever I need it. I'm like, okay, hang on a minute, I'm feeling a little bit stressed. What's my affirmation of the day? So, affirmation of today for episode number 1, guys. Marking a new beginning, okay? Because it's the first episode of Growing and Glowing. It's our new thing. With every affirmation of every podcast, I want you to hold your hand over your heart wherever you are, what you're doing. I want you to just take a moment, take a deep breath in with me. Hand it out. Just really let this sink in. Today's affirmation: I am open, ready, and willing to receive the magic and opportunity that each new beginning brings. I'm going to repeat that. I am open, ready, and willing to receive the magic and opportunity that each new beginning brings. You may not be doing something like starting a whole new podcast today. You may not be doing something like starting a new job or going on a first date or moving house. It doesn't have to be as big as that, but choose to see the magic and opportunity in every single day. In your morning routine, giving your toddler breakfast, where's the magic in that moment? You don't know that you're not about to land literally the most life-changing email in the world into your inbox this morning later on. You don't know that. What limitations are you putting on yourself today? What limitations are you putting on your world and your universe today because you just expect it to be another mundane, plain Jane day? There's so much magic. There's so much opportunity. This universe wants you to succeed. Your life was not supposed to be being lived miserably. You were not brought here to be living a miserable life, staying on that same dull vibration of when are things going to change, when are things going to get better every single day forever. The universe always wants to show you how good it can be. You just have to be open and willing to receive that. So I say once again, I am open, ready, and willing. I am willing to receive the magic and opportunity that each new beginning, each new day, each new hour can bring. After our affirmations, I really want to get onto a highlight reel of every episode before we jump into the daily topic. The highlight reel is just stuff that I am loving, things that are changing my life, things that are raising my vibration right now, and I really have been so excited to share today's episode's highlight reel with you guys. I love a book. I love reading, so don't be surprised if every episode is like a new book and then probably like a different variation of biscuits. I can't really lie. But today's highlight reel, okay, number 1, the book Ask and It Is Given by Esther and Jerry Hicks. If you are new to manifestation, law of attraction, lucky girl syndrome that has been flying around social media recently, if you're genuinely really interested into it and would like to learn more, it's one of the most asked questions I get whenever I talk about my journey with manifestation or the law of attraction and how I believe it's led me to where I am today. I get so many questions like, yeah, but how? How do you do that? Where do you start? I really want to get into meditation, but I have no idea where to begin. Ask and It Is Given by Esther and Jerry Hicks is a really fantastic place to start. I would say it's a little bit like if it's your first ever step into the kind of, woo-woo world that is manifestation and law of attraction. It's a little bit... it takes a moment to wrap your head around some of the stuff. Like, essentially, Esther and Jerry are a couple who are together, and Esther is able to download consciousness in her mind when she meditates from this like collective consciousness, I guess you would call it, like this group of souls almost, which call themselves as one Abraham. Stick with me here, okay? I know. I can appreciate how this might sound if you literally have no idea what I'm talking about. Essentially, the book, after they do like the intro chapters and stuff, is this collective consciousness, Abraham's messages to you on how to manifest the best you can. So it's not exactly like, hi, Esther and Jerry Hicks here, we're just writing, our favourite manifestation little techniques, top 5, visualization, meditation, etc. It's like they've properly like worked with who they believe are this like collective consciousness that Esther has access to through her mind in meditation to write the book. But it's incredibly interesting, incredibly insightful. Like I said, if you are new to manifestation, and you're looking for like actual techniques on how to bring things into your life, into your vibration, brilliant book, would really highly recommend. Love it. Another thing in my highlight reel this week is therapy. Therapy is going to be a huge topic in today's episode, guys. I've mentioned here and there online that I have therapy every single week. I have been having therapy now for just over a year, and wow. I feel like I'm going to say more about this when we really get stuck into today's topic, because there's a lot I have to say about it, but therapy is changing my life. Next up on my highlight reel is smoothies. I am loving a smoothie right now. I am currently in my 3rd trimester in pregnancy. My 2nd pregnancy, I feel beyond blessed. I feel beyond beautiful. I feel on top of the world. Let's let the slight iron deficiency slip. Other than that, I'm feeling on top of the world. And smoothies are like my favourite way to start my day at the moment. And isn't it funny, because it was very similar for me in my first pregnancy. I feel like your body just has this like way of liking doing things, and when you're growing a baby, it's like, body's in control, babe. Like, you think you're in control? If you're craving a smoothie, you're having a smoothie. I don't care where you are. You get that blender, and you put those strawberries and orange juice in it, babe. You're having a smoothie. I've actually I know this kind of, like, people might say defeats the point, but I've really been loving dipping Maryland cookies into my smoothies recently. Anybody else do anything like that? I know there's a big thing about like McDonald's chips like being dipped into milkshakes. Personally, that one's not ever been for me. Can't say I've tried it, to be honest, so I might be missing out on a real trick there, but Maryland cookies in like fresh homemade smoothies, game changing. And also, last on my little highlight reel, because I know that this whole episode is probably sounding like it's just a highlight reel now, and what can I say? I've got a lot of things I love right now. Scent boosters in laundry. Now, I know these aren't for everybody, but I completely forgot about them. I have like a couple of different packs in my laundry cupboard, And when we were in Dubai for our baby moon, which was stunning, by the way, would highly recommend, our house sitter, who is also my best friend in the entire world, she washed our bed sheets for us, bless her soul, and she used these scent boosters, like, I can't remember the brand, but the little bead things, that had just been sat in my cupboard for ages and I'd completely forgotten about. And I swear it changes the laundry game. Like, I don't even know why I took a break, but I'm fully back on the scent booster hype now, everybody. And that's my little highlight reel for the week. So I hope you enjoyed that. Just feel like it's nice to share good vibes, nice to share nice moments, nice objects in life. We're all on this journey together, raising our vibration, so I'm going to share my little smoothies and therapy and scent boosters and books with you if that's what you enjoy. Thanks for listening. Okay, so it's time to really get our teeth into today's episode now. Every episode I want to be talking about a different topic in deep depth. You know, like I said, Growing and Glowing is really all about everything to do with life learnings, motherhood, grief, love, spirituality, all of this kind of stuff. There's so much within that I feel like I would love to share with you guys. But I really wanted the first episode to mark a new beginning. And, you know, I was taking it right back in my mind and I was thinking, episode 1, what topic would be really fitting? And I can't lie, today's topic is a risk. It's a lot for episode 1. It's deep. It is painful on some levels for me. It is discussing things in the first ever episode of my first ever new thing that I haven't discussed ever in my 8.5 years on the internet. I'm actually petrified, I can't lie. Like, I sit here now and I can feel some anxiety rising in me. But do you know what? The little 5-minute higher self meditation I did before I pressed record with this microphone is serving me right now. My chakra spray, let's do a little bit of top up of that for the feeling harmony. Let's take a deep breath. Today's topic is all about the start of my journey with self-love. And I feel like, although intuitively, spiritually, I have always had a very, very deep connection and a deep journey with self-love, growth, self-development, I would say it took an ego death for me to really kickstart my journey. And this ego death for me happened actually only last year, back in January 2022. Great, I literally think they've just started roadworks outside as we are literally about to begin. This is what happens when you set up a new podcast studio in the comfort of your own home, because you're such a home gal. Look at me, I'm sat in my robe right now in slippers. What did I actually expect? Do you know what I mean? What did I expect? But yeah, if you have been around for a while and you have witnessed my journey online, you may have an idea of what I'm talking about. And I was really, really up and down about talking about this. I've really been umming and ahhing about it for a long time. And I've even, I've spoken to my therapist about whether or not it's something I should discuss on the podcast and open up about. But one thing I've really learned through life is that other people's advice is only ever based off of their life experience, what they would do. Last year I actually read Will Smith's book, which is an incredible read, by the way, if you haven't already read it. And there is something he said in his book that has stuck with me ever since the day I read it. And it is this quote right here. Will Smith said, "People's advice is based on their fears, their experiences, their prejudices, and at the end of the day, their advice is just that. It's theirs, not yours." So although my experience with ego death and being cancelled on the internet and something that was a huge transformational moment in my life, actually, to some point on the same degree as losing my mum, totally different things, but similar levels of those sliding doors moments in life. I've had lots of people's advice on whether or not I should discuss it, but I'm really learning to just be me and just share me. And that's, I think, a reason of why I have been craving doing Growing and Glowing, to give myself what feels like a deeper connection to you, because at the end of the day, it is my experience. And what our experience is, if we can't learn from them and share them and grow from them. And I am just somebody who loves connection. And I feel like it's only when we are vulnerable and allow ourselves to be vulnerable that we can allow that strongest form of connection to other people. So I personally feel like, although it's absolutely terrifying for me to discuss some of the things that I feel like I want to talk about today, it's something that is also quite important for me to share. And hopefully my story can serve you in some way, because although my situation in particular, I know we've not even got into it yet, but although my situation in particular is incredibly unique and long, it's a long story that I'm hoping you'll stick around with me for today. I feel as though the lessons that I learned from my situation, the core teachings that I got from it, can be applied to a really wide variety of events in life. You know, at some point, all of us have a moment where we have to decide how we are going to let this moment affect our life, whether it's in a positive or negative manner. How are we going to read this chapter in our life? Are you going to grow through it, or are you going to become a victim to it? Because life happens, challenges happen. Before I discuss it and before I get into my story as well, I do want to just preface this with the fact that there are elements in my story that can be highly triggering for people, and listener or viewer's discretion is advised. On New Year's Day, I believe it was, January 2022, some old tweets of mine were resurfaced to the internet from when I was the age of 14, 15, and these tweets were incredibly hateful, using really vile language. I did not recognize these tweets in any way, shape or form, to the point where I was convinced it was like a fake account. Someone had photoshopped these tweets together. It was such a push to be forced to look at a younger past version of myself that I don't even think I acknowledged the time I was her, let alone since. You know, these tweets were from when I was in my teens, and I'm now reading them back as a 27-year-old mother that is in a total different place in life. And these tweets were so hateful and so hurtful. It was, I can't imagine the perception that it would have given you as like an online viewer of me, when I can't even explain the perception it gave to me of myself, which I know is probably a really like warped, weird thing to say or understand, but it's taken me this long with therapy to like go back into her world, go back into the person who wrote those tweets' mind and world, because they were so unrecognisable to me at the time. And honestly, like, that's a huge reason why I want to start Growing and Glowing, is because I can't imagine the perception that you might have had of me if you have seen some of those tweets. Because obviously online, we all think we know someone from the image they present themselves to be through like a 20-minute YouTube video or Instagram pictures or you know, the clothes they choose to wear. Like, we all think we get them, but everybody has a backstory, and I think a huge reason as to why the tweets that resurfaced for me was so confusing to everybody was because it was so far from the image I presented myself to be online. And the thing is that I've never presented myself online to be someone I'm not. Every YouTube video of mine has been true, has been me, has been real. The past 8.5 years I've dedicated to forming bonds with the people that watch my videos and forming connections. Again, that was the whole reason why I started all those years ago. And when those very people and hundreds of thousands of others are shown this incredibly pained, like incredibly hateful, incredibly angry, upset teenage version of me that they weren't ready to see, they weren't expecting to see, quite rightly, I don't blame you if your perception completely changed of me, because my perception of myself completely changed. And it was I've never, ever, ever, ever known self-hatred like it in my life. I've always, since I can remember, been quite confident as a person, and my relationship with myself and who I am, especially as I've grown into an adult woman, has always been quite strong. But for the first time in my life, I knew what it was to really hate who I was, to really have a lot of anger for myself. Like, I was getting online hate from what felt like every single angle, but none of it even touched the sides of how much hatred I had in my heart at the time for myself. It was an incredibly painful and strange position for me to be in, to feel such self-hatred, to the point where I was suicidal for the first time in my life. I'd never known suicidal thoughts. I'd never experienced that. I'd suffered depression when I was about 18 or 19 years old and my mum was first diagnosed with cancer, but I'd never had suicidal thoughts. And when the tweets resurfaced, I remember a few days after looking at my, what would have been 6-month-old baby in his bouncer across the living room, and I was feeling so disconnected and so low within myself that I was looking at my son, desperate for the feeling of connection, desperate for purpose, and for wanting to feel like I had a reason to be here. You know, if you're a mum, you will understand how your kids are your purpose, they are your life. And I had always loved motherhood. And the second I held my baby boy in my arms when he was born, I knew that he was my reason to be here, and he was my reason for life. And he was the reason why I was born, was to be his mum. And I cannot emphasize to you how much I felt that. But in this moment, and in the days surrounding the time that the tweets resurfaced, I couldn't connect to that. And I felt like I had no purpose, and I felt like I just didn't want to be here anymore. I truly wanted to die. And it didn't seem like there was anything that could pick me up out of that place. Mentally, I was worse than when my mum had died. It was a trench in life. It was a deep, dark moment. And I don't say any of this for your sympathy vote or to ever give across the impression that I'm a victim, because I'm not in any way, shape or form. These tweets that resurfaced were so horrible, so hateful. It had so much anger, so much pain, so much hatred in them. And there's never any excuse for anything that is going to make things like racism or any form of hatred better. So please, I'm not like telling my story in a way that I want to come across as a victim. It's just my simple truth of how those days surrounding the tweets resurfacing were. Financially, our family, with a 6-month-old baby, overnight lost any form of any income, literally for the foreseeable future. Like, I was having conversations with friends. I was literally considering, like, genuinely starting a whole new career in something totally different, never going back online ever again. Friendships I had spent years pouring all my love and all my energy into just vanished overnight. I remember sending this huge text message to pretty much everybody on my contacts list. I'm not only talking like my friends, but also people that like had done my hair one time, or like someone that had served me in a shop once, or all the way from these like acquaintances in my life to literally like my own dad, my own sisters. I sent this huge text message to, basically saying, I'm the most disgusting person in the entire world. Please don't have anything to do with me for your own sake. Just don't come near me. Like, I am gross. I am not worthy of love. I'm not worthy of friendship. I'm not worthy of your help, or even like trying to get through this. Please just remove yourself from my life, because I don't deserve anything good, because I am such a horrible person. That is how low my worth for myself was. That is how low of a place I was in mentally. It was almost just like, I just want to dig my grave and then jump into it, and my life is done. And again, I'm not saying this for a sympathy vote or anything of the kind. I'm just saying the reality of my situation. If you feel like you've known rock bottom, you currently feel like you're at rock bottom, you're going into a rock bottom, I have been there. I can promise you I have been there. Every single thing in my life crumbled. Every single foundation I had was no longer, even down to the topic of even like safety and security, which is something that I feel like 99.9% of us take for granted every day. Like, when you're in your house, you feel safe, you feel secure. Your home usually is your safe space, but in that time, even my safety and security was just non-existent. I was convinced myself that in the middle of the night, people would come in and do horrendous things to my baby in front of me while I watched, or they would like murder my dogs or my husband or me. These intrusive thoughts were so bad that we had to sleep with security outside our house. So when I tell you that every foundation of my life was crumbling, I really truly mean it. It wasn't just like, I felt like I'd lost my job or fallen out with a friend. It was like every single thing. My whole life, everything I thought I was, everything I knew to be was no longer. And this is why it's ego death. I'm going to read the exact definition of ego death to you, because I never truly understood what ego death was until I actually experienced it. And ego death is a complete loss of subjective self-identity. Other psychologies use the synonymous term psychic death, referring to a fundamental transformation of the psyche. And that is exactly what it was. I had to start from scratch. I remember asking my therapist, how do I know who I am? How do I know my values in life? How do I know that? I'd always felt intuitive, always. I could always sense something around me, like good vibes, bad vibes. I could sense that maybe this was on the horizon, or I was looking forward to doing this, or whatever. I was always just quite, a looking forward to the future type of person, very intuitive about what I wanted. But for the first time ever, I remember looking out into my future, thinking about what I'm going to be doing next week, thinking about what I'm going to be doing next year. And for the first time in my life, it was just a total blank space. Like, everything was just black everywhere I looked. I couldn't feel where to go. I didn't know what on earth my next step was. And so that's when I knew I had work to do. That was my ego death. But bringing it back to this episode of what this topic is about is the start of self-love, of self-discovery, of your journey with discovering who you are. And mine is an incredibly ugly, shameful, embarrassing start. Literally the most embarrassing, disgusting thing you've ever done in your life. And I bet if I said to you right now, what's the most embarrassing thing you've ever done? What's the most shameful thing you've ever done? I bet there might be one thing that pops into your mind. It might be so painful for you that you can't even access it. And then imagine having it drawn through the streets, like this embarrassing moment of yours, not only in front of you, but in front of your parents, your family, your friends, acquaintances, anybody you've ever met in your whole life, your hairdresser, like your dentist, your doctor, plus hundreds of thousands of people on the internet. And for a while I had no idea where to go, because I didn't even know where that foundation even was. Like, I couldn't connect with the tweets because they were so far removed from the person I thought I was. So that's what I mean about like an ego death, a psyche death, is because I was so confused and so shook at how that could have been me, when I thought I knew myself, I thought I knew my values, I thought I knew my morals, and they were absolutely nothing to do with hatred or racism or anything apart from loving one another and being kind to others and helping others and raising others. That's, for as long as I could remember, all I had known. So when I was presented with this incredibly contradictory version of myself, it was like, how do I even connect the two? How on earth am I supposed to do that and understand how to try and make things better and how to try and apologise for this unbelievably large amount of pain that I had inflicted in so many people through these tweets from my past? How on earth do I go about ever doing that? The first thing I decided in those days where I knew, okay, I need to pick myself up out of this, I need to put one foot in front of the other, and I need to make things right, and I know I have work to do. The first thing I decided was that I was going to take an unforeseeable amount of time to heal. And I'm not talking about healing from these days that I'm currently telling you about. I'm not healing about being cancelled from the internet. I'm not healing from online trolling, anything like that. I'm healing. I needed to heal from the person I was when those tweets were created. I needed, as a 27-year-old woman, adult, mother, partner, person with an online platform and a responsibility, to go back to that 14-year-old in my mind that I had shut away and understand her world and where she was at that point, to be so unhappy and so full of hate at 14. And don't get me wrong, I had always carried not a traumatic childhood. I'm not going to sit here and say my childhood was full of tragedy and pain and sadness, and because that's all very subjective, and there are people out there that had much, much, incredibly more traumatic childhood experiences than I did. But there were things that happened in my childhood that it did lead me to be really unhappy, and it was stuff that wasn't processed when it should have, and I didn't necessarily have the guidance that I required through childhood, through puberty, through my teenage years, that would have allowed me to process such pain and anger in a non-hateful, collected manner. I knew I had to heal her, because there are all of these past versions wrapped up in the same soul that we are today. The same person that you are driving to work right now, or cleaning your kitchen right now, or going on a run right now, however you're listening to me. By the way, thank you so much for taking your time to listen to me and my story and be here with me today. I know that today's episode is a deep one, and it's a long one, and it's a lot. But I really, really value and truly appreciate and am eternally grateful for your presence right now. But we all have these past versions within ourselves that they're either healed and thriving, or they're not. And inner child work in particular is something that is really incredibly popular, within spirituality and therapy and all these different kind of forms of healing. Inner child work is almost so crucial to step number one, because it's often the inner child that is struggling, and it appears as if it's 25, 30, 35-year-old you that is having an argument about the dishes with your partner, but you're distasted at the fact that you asked him to do the dishes and he hasn't done it by the time you've got home from work or been to the shops. There's a high chance that that actually runs deeper than just your pure annoyance at the fact that you feel like he's useless or never listens to anything you say, doesn't help around the house. There's a chance that that could be something that is being triggered within your inner child. You feel like you can't rely on other people. The responsibility falls on you when that's not fair, because responsibility shouldn't have relied on you when you were 4 years old. There's so many layers to who we are and why we are the way we are. And I had spent the second half of my life pushing these versions from when I was younger away, because I wasn't prepared to deal with the pain and the trauma that they had gone through, when in actuality it was my responsibility now as an adult woman, as a mother to Saint, to deal with my baggage, because the last thing I want is putting that onto him, let alone having it for myself, because it's like, I'm fine. That happened to me when I was 10, and I'm fine now. I'm happy in my everyday life. I have a great job. I have a great husband, wife, children. Everything is great. So why do I need to work through that? But my choice personally as a mother is that Saint, my kids, they're going to go through their own things in life. As much as I want to wrap my kids in cotton wool forever, the reality is that I can't. And although that feels like a stab in my heart, I can't. Life is going to happen to Saint. Life is going to happen to my children. But what I can do as their mother is be able to show up as the best version of myself that I can, with as much damage, baggage, trauma that I've built up in my own mind, in my own life, removed so far that I don't project it onto my kids. Your babies choose you for a reason, and they're going to learn everything from you. And I didn't want my kids to learn the trauma that I picked up when I was 5 years old, because that's mine, not theirs. So I needed to process it, and I needed to get rid of it. And it wasn't until these tweets resurfaced and I felt like my whole world had been rocked, and I didn't know left from right, forwards from backwards, that gave me the kick I needed to go back and heal. I think the universe had been sending me a lot of a lot of signs, a lot of nudges for a long time, to go back and heal and learn and process those times in my life. But I wasn't ready and I wasn't prepared to do it. And, I had my first therapy session at the age of about 11 years old. My mum enrolled me with my local school counsellor for various reasons. It was my first experience with therapy, and my therapist told me to write a letter to someone in my life at that point that I was having a lot of emotion about. And so I did the thing that the therapist told me to do. I wrote the letter and I gave this letter to this person, and this letter was ripped up in front of me as an 11-year-old little girl. It was all my feelings, it was all my thoughts, it was everything I felt like I needed to say, and it was ripped up in front of me and thrown back at me, followed by angry voices, lots of shouting, lots of bad vibes. So that was my first impression with therapy, and honestly after that I was shook for a long time. I then tried again at the age of 18 when I was going through, as I've mentioned a couple of times now, a bit of a transitional period in my life. My mum had just been diagnosed with cancer, suffering with depression. My doctor wanted me to get therapy in addition to antidepressant medication. So I gave it another go. Didn't feel like it was really for me. I tried again a couple of years later when I was probably around the age of 21. Tried again when my mum died when I was 24. And, when my mum died, I was really like, okay, if there's a time in my life I seriously need to buckle down with therapy. Like I said, I'd always been intuitive. I'd always been into growing and developing and becoming better. And it didn't take me too long to sit there and think, do you know what, actually, I've just been through the death of my mum. Now's probably a great time for me to go to therapy. Because what else is so extreme that you need to go to therapy? Like, surely this is a big moment in my life. I need to do it. After a few sessions, I quit because I didn't realise it, but I still was not prepared to go and sit in a room on a random Tuesday afternoon and speak to a stranger about how bad and sad my life is and the things that I had been through, when otherwise I could be getting around a perfectly great day. I could go to Tesco's, I could go to the garden centre, I could take my dogs on a walk, I could watch a film. I could do all of these things to distract me from my mind. Why on earth would I want to go and sit and talk about my feelings and make myself feel 10 times worse and remind myself of the trauma? I didn't want to do that. There was so much that had been building in my life for me to work through, and I'm not saying therapy fits all. I'm not saying therapy is the one and only way to heal or process trauma, but coming from somebody who, I've just told you my story of therapy, and have now successfully been speaking with a therapist every single week for over a year, I can finally say I really now understand the benefits to therapy. I'm finally understanding who I am. I'm finally understanding the things I've been through and how they've shaped me and what kind of mother they're making me. And if it's a pattern or a behaviour that I don't actually want, I can remove it, and I know how to. So, listen, I just want to say before I move on to anything else that if you're going through a bit of a point with therapy at the moment where you're like, should I, shouldn't I? It's too painful. What's the point? I get it. I have been there. You have to be ready to start it for yourself. I must admit, I personally think having Saint, my toddler, who was then baby at the time I started therapy, was a huge motivation for me because, like I said, I might not have always had the motivation to want to process things for myself, to make my own life better. But when you have a kid, they are just everything. So he was the motivation that I needed to move through therapy. But you do have to do it at the right time for you, because if you try and do it when you're still in a stage of denial or, not being ready to accept, then be kind to yourself and know that it's always there as an option. Help is always available. Another thing that really helped me through my ego death, my psyche death, my sliding door moment in life, my rock bottom, and not actually only this time that I've explained to you, but also other times in my life where I felt like I'm at rock bottom. Another thing that really, really hugely helps me is listening, reading, meditating. And I say it like that because that is exactly how it was kind of displayed to me in my mind during a really deep meditation a few months after this event happened. Never stop listening, never stop reading, never stop meditating, never stop growing, never stop developing, because that's what life is. And there are so many tools to help us, to help shape us. And I feel like a lot of the time with today's society and today's younger generations, it's so easy to just consume our minds with other things, other distractions, right? But for me, there will never be anything quite as fulfilling as the education I receive through things like podcasts or reading a book or tapping into my higher self for 20 minutes during some deep breathing. I have a huge list of podcasts and books that I absolutely adore, so maybe one episode I'll do like a list of all my favourite things that are kind of all to do with self-development and resources that I think everybody should have access to if they're interested in change and development. But essentially what I learned through doing all of these things, and I'm still learning how to, was how to forgive myself and how to forgive the 14-year-old in me, how to really neutralise and calm that hatred and that judgment and that anger I had towards that past version of myself, and learning to wrap my arms around it and love it. Because although the pain and the trauma is ugly and unkind, the one way to dissolve it is to wrap our arms around it and love it and embrace it. And I think something that is so important is knowing how to forgive yourself, because you're going to make a mistake. At some point in life, you're going to regret something you did. You're going to make a mistake. I know that people love to say, live with no regrets and hold no judgment towards yourself and embrace the things that you've been through and done, and because they're your greatest teachers. And while I fully acknowledge that and fully agree with that, I think it's also important to remember we're all just having a very human experience here in this life, and embarrassment and shame are very human emotions to feel when you think about something that you wish hadn't have happened, you wish you hadn't have done. And self-forgiveness is the key to being able to move forward in your life. The best part of the past year for me has been spent really developing in my journey of learning how to remove responsibility from other people about how I feel about myself. And this includes, I'm not just talking about forgiveness, I'm talking about happiness, joy, love. So many of us put it in our partner's hands to make us feel loved, make us feel special. It's literally Valentine's Day as I'm recording this. How many of us have waited around today for that card and flowers, and if we don't receive it, it's like, well, then we're not worthy of love. We're not worthy of happiness. And don't get me wrong, I'm totally saying I hugely appreciated my card and bunch of flowers from my husband this morning, but how much value, how much of your self-worth do you pin on those things for your partner to give you when you could be giving it to yourself? Validation is another huge one. How many people need to like your Instagram picture for you to feel seen and validated? How many people need to tell you that you're a good person before you believe it? Why can't this just come from yourself? Why can't you just give yourself those feelings? Because they're totally accessible for you right now. I want to shower you right now with love, acceptance, worthiness, forgiveness, joy, happiness. All of these emotions are available for you to take for yours now. Looking back, if there's one thing I've learned through the journey that I've taken you on today, it would be that hard times, rock bottoms, always have a silver lining. And even if it means that your silver lining to this incredibly hard time that you might be feeling right now is that this is the start for you of your journey with self-discovery, self-acceptance, self-love, is there anything that could be more of a gift to you? That today, I'm taking it straight back to our affirmation of the episode, today there is so much magic, so much opportunity for you to grab onto and use and be willing to receive through this hard time. I promise you, growing through your hard time is always the best option, and you will one day look back at what you're going through right now or what you've been through that still very much has a huge presence in your mind. I promise you one day you'll be able to look back and see the lesson. And I know that's a really frustrating thing to hear. It's like, why can't I have the lesson now? Because the universe will give it to you when you're ready. So ego death, rock bottom, starting from scratch. It's been a long one today, but I really, really hope that there's something you've been able to take away from today's episode. I hope this episode has served you in some way. I want you to remember that regardless of who you are, where you come from, what you're currently doing, what you're currently going through, you are worthy of love, of happiness, of all the success, of all the joy, of all the great things. The universe wants to show you how good this world can truly be. Just be willing to receive it. Okay, so I want to finish off every episode with a growing moment and a glowing moment, because that's the name of the game over here. And I feel like it's important to do reflection. And I also think it's important to look at our lessons and what we've learned and how far we've come, as well as giving ourselves a pat on the back for something that we've done really well. So, and I want you to also think about these moments for yourself as well as I share mine. So, my growing moment this week, it was tough, but I had a really open conversation, a really big heart-to-heart, as I guess some people would call it, with someone very close to me in my life that I had been feeling quite disconnected to, not just recently, but over the course of a couple of years. I had been feeling this space growing between us, and I really felt as though communication was breaking down. I could feel my walls going up with them, but I was desperate for them not to. I didn't want my walls going up. I didn't want communication breaking down. This is a person I hugely value and love and appreciate in my life, and I really wanted them to know how special and important they are to me. So as much vulnerability and courage from a side of me that really sometimes cringes almost at putting my heart on the line, especially to people that we're not used to doing it to. Like, I've never particularly had a very lovey-dovey, hugely open, deep relationship with this person. So it was a brand new thing for me, but I really felt like it was important to develop our relationship and our friendship. And it took strength, but it was the best thing that could ever have happened for the relationship between that person and I, because now I feel as though the bond is stronger than ever. I feel so much more connected to said person. And it was hard. It took growth. It took a growing moment. It took me to, have to put my big girl pants on and to think, I have to be an adult in this situation. I have to take responsibility for the fact that this relationship could be crumbling right now, and I don't want it to. So what do I have to do to fight for it? And sometimes I feel like our pride can really get in the way of doing things like that. And that's when friendships and relationships and things start to break down, because we're not open to sharing our heart and sharing our vulnerability with these people in our life that really love us so much and want us to thrive and want to feel closer to us. So that's my growing moment. I'm really, really proud of myself that I did that. And it taught me moving forward that actually those conversations, as uncomfortable as they might seem in your mind, they're really not as hard as you think they would be. Saying to somebody, I love you, I miss you, I want us to be closer, what can I do on my part to help that? How can I be there for you more? How can we connect on a deeper level again? Is a much harder thing to say in your mind than it actually is to the person. And my glowing moment of the week, in contrast, is actually my development that I saw in myself as a mother. Motherhood, you guys, has been the most beautiful journey for me. I absolutely adore being a mother. Like I said, I truly feel as though my purpose in my life was to be my children's mum. It was to get to the point where, I've been through my life lessons, I've been through my pain, I've been through my hurt, and I've come out the other side to be there for them. And I really feel like I'm just stepping into that era of my life now, and it couldn't feel better to me. And I don't know if it's because I haven't got my own mum around. I'm really trying to make more of a conscious effort of giving myself pats on the back, because I no longer have my mum with me, and she never met my children. So I would like to think if she was here, she would be the person to tell me, you're doing a great job. You're an amazing mum. I'm so proud of you. But I don't have that. And so the reality is that I've had to be stepping up in my mind a lot more to do that for myself. I have to give myself the pats on the back. And don't get me wrong, my husband is amazing at telling me I've done a great job that day. And those little compliments from other people never go unnoticed. But I really have been working hard at saying, Elle, well done. That was a really great parenting moment. You did a really great job. Saint feels really loved right now, and it's because of you. And a moment for that was, it doesn't sound like a big thing, but actually I feel like I had a lot of anxiety around it as it was kind of happening, when we were on the flight back from our baby moon in Dubai. So we recently spent a week in Dubai for our baby moon to celebrate our second baby coming into the world. It was a beautiful holiday. We had an amazing time. Saint is 19 months old. He is at such a fun, happy, interactive, engaging age, and truly it was like the funnest time we've had. It was just hilarious, beautiful, so magical and memorable. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't have any anxiety over the flight. And, it's a long haul flight. It's like 6, 7, 8 hours to Dubai and back. And I was like, oh my God, what if he doesn't sleep? And what if he's unhappy? What if he's hungry? Blah, blah, blah. But the flight home, I was so laid back. And I was so like, you know what? I can handle whatever happens. Saint ends up being that screaming baby on the flight. So I can deal with it. I'm his mum. I'm the best person equipped to handle it, to handle his emotions. I am that light for him. I can be that for him. Let me step into my power and do it. And needless to say, I didn't even have anything to worry about, because Saint was literally the happiest kid on that flight. But I was just really proud of those thought processes in my mind, and I feel like this is a bit of a glowing moment for me. I'm really proud of how laid back I was. I'm really proud of knowing my confidence and owning my confidence as a mum, because confidence is something we are allowed to build. Confidence is a muscle. When we're thrown into the depths of motherhood in those newborn days, oh my gosh, I can't wait to do so many conversations about babies and motherhood and newborn days as we fly into them very shortly once again. But when you are thrown into motherhood, it's like, what? Okay, let me get my flow. And then you realise that you're never getting back to your old flow. It's a new flow that is equally beautiful, will be equally easy someday. It might not be easy right now, but the flow of motherhood, you will get it one day, I promise. And it's even more rewarding than the flow you were in before you were a mother. But confidence is definitely a muscle, and I've just really realised recently how fabulous it feels to really own your confidence as a parent. It's great to feel like I'm everything my kid needs and more. I'm a great mum. I'm a great parent. And my child feels so loved by me. And that's really cool to feel that and own that. And I just, had a moment like that on the flight back from Dubai. I just felt really confident in motherhood and just really felt like I knew what I was doing. And don't get me wrong, those moments do not come around all the time. But I'm really learning to choose to see them more. So that was my glowing moment. Anyway, wow, what a journey we've been on today. I feel like we all need to take a deep breath. Do you know what? I'm going to spray one more time my chakra spray. Oh, just stunning. It makes me feel so aligned whenever I smell that scent. It's beautiful. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing your time with me today and for listening to this episode. I really hope this has set the tone well for what growing and glowing is all about. Episodes are going to be uploaded every week. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram. I will leave our Instagram in the show notes below. Please make sure you tag me however you've listened to today's episode. I would love to see how growing and glowing is being listened to across the world. I'm sending you so much love, so much happiness, so much abundance, and so much success today. I want you to go ahead and have a wonderful week. Remember, the universe wants you to succeed. Remember, you are open, ready, and willing to receive the magic and opportunity that each new beginning brings. I love you deeply, and I'll see you next time.